First contact and betrayal. The quantum sensors aboard the International Space Station picked up the anomaly at 300 hours UTC. Dr. Sarah Chen watched in amazement as the readings defied everything she knew about physics. The water-like ripples in space-time heralded humanity's first contact with an alien civilization, but not in the way anyone had expected. The Araxians didn't arrive in massive ships or with overwhelming technology. Instead, a single pod, no larger than a shipping container, materialized in low Earth orbit. Inside was Ambassador Luxvel, a being that looked like a cross between a manta ray and a deep-sea anglerfish, its bioluminescent patterns shifting in complex patterns that their xenolinguists would later identify as a form of emotional expression. The warning they brought would change the course of human history. Your species has been noticed. Luxvel transmitted through a neural interface that translated their thoughts directly into human language. The Hegemony's expansion fleet is 17 of your solar cycles away. We came to warn you because we see in humanity what we once were: curious, resilient, innovative. The Hegemony claims to bring order and advancement, but they bring only subjugation. The United Earth Council convened an emergency session in Geneva. Representatives from every nation gathered to hear the Araxians' testimony. Luxvel's bioluminescent patterns pulsed with sadness as they shared holographic recordings of their own civilization's subjugation. The Hegemony, a coalition of 12 ancient species, had perfected the art of cosmic colonization over millions of years. They didn't arrive with weapons of mass destruction or overwhelming military might. Their approach was far more insidious. They offered technology, medical advances, and the promise of membership in their galactic society. But each gift came with strings attached, each technological advance with carefully hidden dependencies that would make the recipient species reliant on Hegemony resources. We were once proud explorers of our ocean world, Luxvel explained, their patterns shifting to deep blues of remembrance. Now we are little more than servants, maintaining their deep space relay stations because our biology allows us to survive in their liquid quantum processors. We refuse to let your species suffer the same fate. Dr. Chen worked closely with the Araxian delegation over the following months, learning about the Hegemony's weaknesses and technological blind spots. The aliens were surprised by humanity's rapid grasp of concepts that had taken their own species centuries to develop. Your adaptability is remarkable, Luxvel observed as Sarah explained how humans had already begun reverse engineering aspects of their quantum communication technology. Perhaps this is why the Hegemony moves against you so quickly. They see your potential and fear it. The warning proved prophetic. 6 months after the Araxians' arrival, the first Hegemony probe appeared at the edge of the solar system. Its message was broadcast simultaneously to every electronic device on Earth. Greetings, people of Earth. We represent the Galactic Hegemony, a coalition of advanced civilizations dedicated to uplifting promising species. We have observed your rapid technological advancement and wish to extend an invitation to join our society. We offer you the stars themselves. The message was perfectly crafted to appeal to humanity's dreams of space exploration. But thanks to the Araxians' warning, Earth's leaders saw through the honeyed words to the steel trap beneath. The UN Security Council's response was unprecedented in human history. Total unity and rejection. Humanity appreciates your offer, they transmitted back, but we choose to find our own path among the stars. The Hegemony's response was immediate and chilling. Your participation is not optional. Prepare for integration. As the transmission ended, every Araxian device on Earth simultaneously deactivated. The Hegemony's first show of power, but Luxvel's final gift remained. The quantum encryption protocols that would keep humanity's most crucial communications hidden from Hegemony surveillance. In the massive underground facility beneath the Himalayas, Dr. Chen watched as the quantum computers she helped develop with Araxian insight spun up to full power. The Hegemony thought they were dealing with a primitive species that would eagerly accept their poisoned gifts. They had no idea that humanity had spent the last 6 months preparing for war. Begin Operation Dark Star. She transmitted to facilities around the globe. The greatest deception in human history was about to begin. They would appear to accept the hegemony's gifts while secretly preparing their defense. And when the time came, humanity would show the galaxy why you should never underestimate a species that had spent its entire history overcoming impossible odds. As the first hegemony ships appeared in the inner solar system, Sarah thought of Luxvel's final words before they were forcibly recalled by their masters. In all our observations of your species, we noticed one crucial thing. Humans don't just survive adversity, you thrive on it. Show them what that means. Earth was about to do exactly that. The price of freedom. The hegemony's integration fleet arrived with all the pageantry one would expect from a civilization that had perfected the art of conquest. Their ships were works of art, massive crystalline structures that seemed to float on light itself. They brought gifts, medical technologies that could cure cancer, energy systems that could end Earth's dependence on fossil fuels, and agricultural advances that could eliminate world hunger. Dr. Sarah Chen watched the proceedings from her underground lab, her hands clenched into fists as she observed the hegemony representatives through quantum-encrypted feeds. The aliens looked almost human, save for their metallic skin and eyes that shifted color with their thoughts. Their beauty was as deliberate as their charm offensive. Accept these gifts as a token of our friendship, the hegemony ambassador, Valoran, announced to the United Earth Council. Together, we will guide humanity to its rightful place among the stars. What the hegemony didn't know was that humanity had already begun manufacturing their own versions of these technologies, thanks to the Araxians' warning and 6 months of intensive preparation. Each gift was carefully quarantined and studied, revealing the hidden backdoors and control systems the hegemony had built into them. The secret resistance, dubbed Project Phoenix, operated from facilities buried deep within mountains, beneath oceans, and hidden in plain sight. While the world's governments publicly played the role of grateful recipients, humanity's best minds worked tirelessly to prepare for the inevitable conflict. Admiral James Rodriguez, commander of Earth's hidden fleet, received the latest intelligence report in his lunar base office. They've started Phase 2, he announced to his staff. The hegemony is introducing their educational advisors into our universities. These advisors were more than teachers. They were the first wave of cultural engineering, meant to slowly reshape human society into a form more amenable to hegemony control. But humanity had a surprise waiting for them. Activate the Prometheus Protocol, Rodriguez ordered. Across the globe, quantum AI systems developed by Dr. Chen's team began their work. Every word spoken by a hegemony advisor was analyzed. Every lesson they taught was scrutinized and subtly modified. The humans appeared to be learning exactly what the hegemony wanted, while actually absorbing a very different curriculum. The hegemony's own surveillance systems showed them exactly what they expected to see, a primitive species eagerly absorbing their superior knowledge. They didn't realize that their monitoring devices had been compromised within hours of their installation, now feeding them an elaborate fiction created by Earth's quantum computers. But maintaining the deception was taking its toll. Sarah hadn't seen sunlight in weeks, spending every waking moment in the underground facility. The quantum computers required constant adjustment to maintain the illusion of compliance while hiding humanity's true activities. "We've got something," her assistant, Dr. Marcus Wong, announced one evening. "The hegemony ships. We've cracked their quantum shield frequency." It was the breakthrough they'd been waiting for. The hegemony ships were protected by quantum fields that made them virtually invulnerable to conventional weapons. But thanks to the Araxians' insights and human innovation, they'd found a way to disrupt those fields. The discovery came just in time. The hegemony was preparing to move to Phase 3 of their integration, the introduction of their peacekeeping forces. These would be the troops that would enforce hegemony control once their cultural engineering had supposedly weakened human resistance. How long until they realize we've been playing them? Sarah asked Admiral Rodriguez during their weekly quantum encrypted conference. "Our behavioral analysts give us another 3 months at most," he replied. "The question is, will we be ready?" The answer came from an unexpected source. Deep within the hegemony's own network, a familiar pattern of bioluminescent code appeared on Sarah's quantum screens. Somehow, Luxfell had managed to send them a message. "The hegemony suspects. They've seen this pattern of resistance before, but never at this scale. They're moving up their timeline. The peacekeeping fleet launches in 15 days. Sarah's hands flew over her quantum interface. "Admiral, we need to accelerate everything. We don't have 3 months anymore." Around the world, hidden factories that had been operating at maximum capacity for months shifted into emergency production. Beneath the surface of Mars, automated facilities completed the final assembly of ships that combined human ingenuity with Araxian insight. In deep orbit around Neptune, stealth platforms armed with weapons that violated every known law of physics waited for activation. The hegemony thought they were following a well-worn path to another successful integration. They didn't realize they were walking into the biggest trap in their million-year history. As Sarah initiated the final preparations for humanity's defense, she remembered something her grandmother used to say. "The most dangerous opponent isn't the one who fights back immediately. It's the one who waits, watches, and learns before striking." Humanity had done all three. Now it was time to show the galaxy why Earth's history of constant conflict and competition had created a species that couldn't be subjugated by even the most advanced civilization in known space. The price of freedom would be paid in full, not by humanity, but by those who thought they could take it away. Operation Thunderstrike. The hegemony's peacekeeping fleet arrived precisely on schedule. 300 ships emerging from quantum space in perfect formation. Their arrival was meant to be a show of force, a demonstration of power that would cow any remaining resistance among the humans. Instead, it marked the beginning of their downfall. Admiral Rodriguez stood in the Lunar Command Center, watching the holographic display as the hegemony ships took up their predetermined positions around Earth. Everything was proceeding exactly as their behavioral models had predicted. The hegemony's million years of unopposed expansion had made them predictable. "All stations, initiate Operation Thunderstrike." He transmitted through quantum-encrypted channels. Authorization code: Phoenix Rising. Across the solar system, humanity's hidden forces sprang into action. The first sign that something was wrong came when the hegemony's quantum communication network suddenly went dark. In the seconds it took them to realize their backup systems had also been compromised. Humanity's counterstrike was already underway. Dr. Sarah Chen watched from her command station as the quantum virus she'd developed with Marcus began its work. Based on the coding patterns they'd learned from Luxfell, it spread through the hegemony systems like digital wildfire, turning their own quantum technology against them. "Their shields are fluctuating," Marcus reported, his fingers dancing across the holographic interface. Quantum field integrity dropping across all vessels. The hegemony ships began to power up their weapons, but they were already too late. From the dark side of Mars, humanity's first wave of ships emerged from stealth. They weren't the elegant crystalline structures the hegemony favored. These were vessels of war, built with a single purpose: to end the threat of hegemony domination forever. "This is Admiral James Rodriguez of the Earth Defense Fleet." His transmission cut through the hegemony's communication blackout. "For 6 months, you thought you were integrating us. Instead, you were teaching us everything we needed to know to defeat you. Surrender now, or face the consequences." The hegemony's response came in the form of energy beams that could have vaporized cities. But humanity had studied their weapons technology extensively. The beams splashed harmlessly against quantum-reinforced shields based on the hegemony's own designs that humanity had improved upon. "All ships, execute attack pattern Delta," Rodriguez commanded. "Show them what humanity does with stolen knowledge." The Earth fleet moved with a coordination that shocked the hegemony commanders. Instead of the crude tactics they expected from a primitive species, they faced maneuvers that seemed to bend space itself. Humanity had taken the hegemony's quantum technology and weaponized it in ways they had never imagined possible. From her station, Sarah activated the quantum disruptors, devices that turned the hegemony's own shield frequencies against them. Ships that had been invulnerable for millennia suddenly found themselves vulnerable to weapons specifically designed to exploit their weaknesses. Multiple hegemony vessels disabled, Marcus reported. Their quantum cores are destabilizing exactly as predicted. The battle that followed would later be described as less of a fight and more of a systematic dismantling. Every hegemony tactic was met with a precise countermeasure. Every attempt to adapt was anticipated and thwarted. Humanity had spent 6 months preparing for this exact moment, and it showed. But the true surprise came from deep space. Quantum signatures began appearing throughout the solar system. But these weren't hegemony reinforcements. Ships of various designs emerged, each broadcasting on frequencies that Sarah recognized from her work with Luxvel. This is the Free Species Alliance. A familiar bioluminescent pattern appeared on their screens. Luxvel themselves. We have watched and waited. Humanity has proven itself worthy of alliance. The hegemony's time of unopposed rule ends today. The Araxians hadn't just been warning humanity. They had been evaluating them, waiting to see if this young species had the potential to do what no other had managed, stand up to the hegemony and win. Humanity's resistance had become a signal to other subjugated species that the time for change had come. Admiral Rodriguez watched as the combined forces of humanity and the Free Species Alliance systematically took apart the hegemony fleet. Ships that surrendered were spared. Humanity had no interest in genocide. This wasn't about revenge. It was about freedom. In her command center, Sarah received a direct transmission from Luxvel. You have done what we hoped but dared not believe possible. Humanity's greatest strength isn't your technology or your weapons. It's your ability to unite and adapt in the face of overwhelming odds. The galaxy will never be the same. As the last hegemony ship surrendered, Sarah looked at the tactical display, showing the aftermath of humanity's victory. They had done more than just defend Earth. They had shattered the power of an empire that had stood for 1,000,000 years. And they had done it not through brute force alone, but through patience, deception, and the careful application of intelligence and innovation. The price of freedom had indeed been paid, not in submission to the hegemony, but in the currency of human determination and ingenuity. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity wasn't just another species to be subjugated. They were the catalyst that would reshape the very nature of interstellar civilization. The tide turns. News of the hegemony's defeat spread across the galaxy at quantum speed. Species that had lived under hegemony control for thousands of years watched in stunned amazement as footage of the battle was transmitted through hidden networks. The primitive species, barely space-capable by galactic standards, had done the impossible. They had broken the hegemony's grasp. In the weeks following Operation Thunderstrike, Earth became the center of a growing revolution. Dr. Sarah Chen found herself working alongside beings from dozens of species, each bringing their own unique insights and technologies to the table. The Araxians' liquid quantum processors merged with human AI systems, creating computational capabilities that exceeded anything the hegemony had ever achieved. The hegemony's strength was always an illusion. Luxvel explained during a strategic conference in the lunar base. Their bioluminescent patterns shifted with excitement as they interfaced with the quantum systems. They didn't innovate. They assimilated. Each conquered species was forced to contribute their technology, but never allowed to develop it further. Humanity is the first species in millennia to take their technology and immediately improve upon it. Admiral Rodriguez stood before the newly formed Galactic Liberation Council, representing not just Earth, but all species fighting for freedom from hegemony control. We've struck the first blow, he addressed the assembled representatives, but the hegemony still controls vast regions of space. They won't take this defeat lightly. He was right. The hegemony's response to their defeat at Earth was swift and brutal. Across their territory, they began implementing stricter control measures on subjugated species, but their actions only served to fuel the growing resistance. Sarah worked tirelessly with her expanding team of multi-species scientists. The quantum virus that had helped defeat the hegemony fleet was being adapted into a liberation tool, capable of freeing enslaved species from the hegemony's technological controls without disrupting critical infrastructure. The hegemony built their empire on technological dependence, Marcus observed as they fine-tuned the virus. But they never considered what would happen if someone found a way to turn that technology toward freedom instead of control. The Liberation Council adopted a strategy that played to each species' strengths. The Araxians' mastery of quantum systems made them perfect for infiltration and intelligence gathering. The Zrith, a species of silicon-based beings, could survive in environments that would kill most other life forms, making them ideal for sabotage operations. And humanity's talent for innovation and unconventional thinking provided the spark that united these diverse abilities into an effective fighting force. But the most powerful weapon in their arsenal wasn't technological. It was hope. Each successful liberation operation inspired more species to resist. The hegemony found themselves fighting an enemy they couldn't understand, an alliance that grew stronger through diversity rather than conformity. Sarah received an urgent transmission from a deep-cover Araxian operative within hegemony space. They're mobilizing their entire reserve fleet. The message read, "The Hegemony Council has declared a state of emergency. They're calling Earth's resistance a galaxy-wide threat to stability." Admiral Rodriguez smiled grimly when he heard the news. They're right about one thing. We are a threat to their kind of stability. Because true stability doesn't come from control, it comes from cooperation. The hegemony launched simultaneous attacks on multiple fronts, expecting to overwhelm the fledgling alliance through sheer force. Instead, they found themselves facing an enemy that seemed to anticipate their every move. The quantum intelligence network Sarah had helped develop process tactical information faster than any system in known space, allowing alliance forces to respond to threats before they fully developed. But the real turning point came from an unexpected source. Deep within hegemony space, supposedly loyal servant species began falling silent. Space stations stopped responding to commands. Supply lines were disrupted. The hegemony's own technology was being turned against them by the very species they had enslaved. "Your greatest mistake," Sarah transmitted to the Hegemony Council as their empire began to crumble, "was teaching us all your weaknesses while believing we were too primitive to exploit them." The liberation of the Zrith homeworld marked a symbolic victory. The Silicon beings had been among the hegemony's first conquests, serving as literal foundation builders for their empire. When the Zrith broke free, using techniques developed by human engineers to overcome their quantum shackles, it sent shockwaves through the galaxy. In her rare moments of rest, Sarah often found herself in conversation with Luxspell about the future they were creating. The hegemony believed that progress could only come through rigid control. The Araxian observed, their patterns showing contemplative blues and greens. They never understood that true advancement comes from the chaos of cooperation, from the collision of different ideas and perspectives. As more species joined the alliance, each bringing their own unique contributions, Sarah realized that humanity's greatest achievement wasn't defeating the hegemony. It was proving that diversity could be a greater source of strength than uniformity. The tide hadn't just turned against the hegemony. It had turned against their entire philosophy of galactic civilization. The price of freedom was being paid not in submission, but in revolution. And as the old order crumbled, something new and unprecedented was taking its place. A galaxy where species helped each other rise instead of competing to see who could dominate. A new dawn. 1 year after Operation Thunderstrike, the hegemony's once mighty empire had been reduced to a handful of core systems. Their million-year reign hadn't ended with a massive battle or a dramatic last stand, but with a quiet revolution that spread from world to world, system to system, as species after species chose freedom over submission. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the newly constructed Galactic Assembly on Mars, watching representatives from over 1,000 species gather for the signing of the Covenant of Free Worlds. The massive chamber was a testament to unity and diversity, each species' environmental needs accommodated through advanced quantum engineering, allowing beings of wildly different biologies to interact comfortably. "Did you ever imagine this when you first detected our signal?" she asked Luxvel, who floated beside her in a quantum-suspended liquid environment. The Araxians' bioluminescent pattern swirled with colors that Sarah had learned to recognize as joy and pride. "We hope to save one species from the hegemony's grasp," Luxvel responded. "Instead, you showed us how to save the galaxy from itself." Admiral Rodriguez, now serving as Earth's representative to the Galactic Assembly, took the central platform. His dress uniform bore the new insignia of the Free World's Defense Force, a phoenix rising from a field of stars, symbolizing the rebirth of galactic civilization. "A year ago, we fought for Earth's freedom," he addressed the assembled representatives, his words translated simultaneously into hundreds of languages. "Today, we gather to ensure that no species will ever again face the choice between submission and extinction. The covenant we signed today isn't just a peace treaty. It's a promise to future generations that the galaxy belongs to all of us." The signing ceremony was broadcast across known space. On thousands of worlds, beings of every conceivable form watched as their representatives formalized the new galactic order. The Covenant's core principles were simple but revolutionary: mutual defense, free exchange of knowledge, and respect for each species' right to self-determination. In her lab beneath the Martian surface, Marcus showed Sarah the latest data from their quantum intelligence network. "The last hegemony holdouts are requesting admission to the Covenant," he reported. "Their own people are demanding change. They've seen what real cooperation can achieve." The achievements of the past year had exceeded anything in recorded galactic history. The combining of different species' technologies and insights had led to breakthroughs that the hegemony's rigid control had made impossible. The Araxians' quantum computing, merged with human AI, and Zrith crystalline storage systems, had created a new form of intelligence that served all species equally. Medical knowledge shared freely between worlds had led to cures for diseases that had plagued civilizations for millennia. But the greatest changes were cultural. Species that had been enemies under hegemony rule discovered they had more in common than they'd ever known. The Covenant didn't just allow cooperation. It encouraged it, creating opportunities for different civilizations to work together on massive projects that benefited all. Sarah's quantum communicator chimed with a priority message. It was from a research team in the Andromeda Galaxy, the first expedition mankind had helped launch beyond the Milky Way. The message contained something that would have been impossible under hegemony rule: an invitation to all species to join in the exploration of a new frontier. The hegemony's greatest fear has become reality, Luxvel observed as they reviewed the message together. They always claimed that without their control, the galaxy would descend into chaos and warfare. Instead, we've proven that freedom and cooperation are the true paths to advancement. The final victory over the hegemony's ideology came not from weapons or technology, but from simple demographics. The first generation of children born under the Covenant was growing up in a galaxy where cooperation between species was normal, where diversity was celebrated rather than suppressed. They couldn't imagine a world where one civilization tried to rule all others. One evening, as Earth's sun set behind the Martian mountains, Sarah found herself back in the chamber where it had all begun, the underground lab where she'd first detected the Araxians' warning signal. The old quantum sensors were now museum pieces, preserved as a reminder of how far they'd come. Was it worth the price? Rodriguez asked, joining her in the memorial chamber. All the risks we took, the sacrifices we made. Sarah thought about the changes she'd seen, the wonders that had been achieved when species worked together instead of against each other. She thought about the ships now exploring other galaxies, crewed by beings of a dozen different species working in perfect harmony. She thought about the children growing up without fear of subjugation or extinction. "The price of freedom," she replied, "was teaching the galaxy that we're all stronger together than we ever could be apart. And that's a lesson worth any cost." As she spoke, quantum signals from across the galaxy pulsed with the daily activities of a civilization growing and evolving in ways the hegemony had never imagined possible. Humanity had done more than resist subjugation. They had shown the galaxy a better way to exist. The price of freedom had purchased something far more valuable than victory. It had bought hope for all species for all time. The stars above Mars seemed brighter somehow, as if reflecting the promise of a future where the only limits were those of imagination and courage. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy, not as conquerors or subjects, but as catalysts for a change that would echo through the ages. The price of freedom had been paid in full, and the dividends would continue enriching the galaxy for generations to come. The end.